Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance in Long Beach. Today we are joined by the Long Beach City Prosecutor. His name is Doug Haubert. And I want to speak with you about the role of police and prosecutors. So I used to be a lawyer, as you know. I went to law school like you. And back in the day, it felt like prosecutors and police were really all about crime, criminal justice, putting them in jail and just ending it. But now it seems as if we're in a kind of era where we're looking more at trying to focus on rehabilitation as opposed to so much retribution.
Well, I think the public is looking to police and prosecutors to change what they do. There's different expectations now than there were 20 years ago. And just taking the attorney viewpoint, attorneys are trained advocates, and our system is an adversarial system where you have two sides going head-to-head like gladiators in a courtroom, and that has been the traditional role of prosecutors for years. But now we're looking at prosecutors to become more of problem solvers than simply advocates.
And let's talk about that, because look, we may think, we attorneys, that we know all, we've been accused of that, but at a certain level, do prosecutors, are they given the tools, either in law school or after law school, to make these determinations about what is best for the defendant, be it rehabilitation or be it retribution?
Well, you're absolutely correct in that the expectation on us has changed, but the training really has not. You can always retrain someone, but the problem is we're not social workers. That wasn't the reason we went to school in the first place. But the expectation on us is that we actually take on more of a social worker role. And that really just has to do with how our society has changed over the years. They're looking for more diversionary programs, more creative programs to keep cases out of court, to get people into rehabilitation. If they have a substance abuse problem, try to get them help. If they have mental illness, try to get them some attention from a medical professional. All of this is geared towards going to the root of the problem, because the cycle of arresting, having them go to jail, getting released to the streets, arresting them, have them go to jail, getting released to the streets, just hasn't been very effective. So we're looking for something new.
So let's talk about that, because there's no doubt that in California we've seen that pendulum swing towards rehabilitation. 20 years ago we passed 3 strikes. In the last few years we've liberalized certain criminal penalties. But we do see on the federal level with the new administration, they seem to be looking more, at least the new administration, more at the retribution as opposed to the rehabilitation.
Well, I don't know that they would agree with that, but I think that they would say similarly, the pendulum has swung very far in the last 8 to 10 years, and I think they're looking for a course correction there. And even if they just brought it back to where we were 8 years ago, it would look more like retribution and less like rehabilitation. But the federal system is very, very different. The federal system does have a lot of diversionary programs. They have a lot of resources for these diversionary programs.
So are they going to be committed to them with the new administration? Are you aware? I know we're slightly off your bailiwick, but
well, the changes have been more along the lines of enforcement and what autonomy a prosecutor has to not file or to file charges that are below what could be proven in court. So that has changed, but the focus has been a national change, not just at the federal criminal level, but at every state that I know of has seen this shift. And it largely is reflecting the change in public opinion. People are looking at the criminal justice system differently today. It's not simply about punishing crimes. It's more looking at what is the core root, what's causing the problem, and trying to fix the problem. And that is a little different.
So with your prosecutors, are you able to work with them so that they can perform their role as social worker a bit better? Is there continuing legal education? Are you bringing in social workers? Are they teamed up with clinicians?
Well, Long Beach historically has had a tradition of being innovative and looking at new, different programs. In fact, some of the programs we start here in Long Beach become models for other prosecuting agencies. So yeah, our office is looking at our job a little differently than we have before, but it's not that difficult because I do hire, I think, some of the best attorneys, and we all have the same mission, and the mission is looking at how do we improve public safety, make Long Beach safer, how do we improve the quality of life, and if going to the root problem that's causing the crime is going to solve that crime, help that person not commit the crime again, people are going to be safer, the person
Right.
will be rehabilitated more effectively, and the city will be safer as a result.
I want to speak with you about the police as social worker.
Yeah.
Because that has caused some challenges as well, especially with our homeless crisis rising. I mean, here in Los Angeles County, we had the homeless count come out recently. We're up 23%. And but for San Bernardino County, the whole region is up.
Right.
And so, 10 years ago, the police were really looking at homelessness as a criminal matter. The courts have disabused them of that view. And so now police are having to look and act at some level as social worker.
Well, there's probably been no greater change than the public expectation of police officers. So police officers, for example, our department has mental evaluation teams that go with police officers. These are clinicians who are there to identify if there's a mental illness and then what is the best course of conduct to try to help that person get back on their medication or get in stable housing. That's a very different function for law enforcement. So we're really asking our police officers to do something different. They're not trained to identify substance abuse and to identify different types of substance abuse or mental illness. What if a person has both? They've got co-occurring illnesses. Police officers are not trained to identify those, but we're asking them to do that.
So is that why the clinicians are joining them in the field?
And we're changing. Police officers have better training now than they've ever had in the history of law enforcement. They have partners. They partner with social service agencies to try to get people off the streets into services. And that is beyond the traditional role of police officers, but that is the expectation today. And I'm actually pretty proud of our Chief Luna, and our police department. I think they do a really, really good job of thinking outside the box. And again, if you go to the core of the problem, and if you can solve what's causing, you mentioned homelessness, well, there's an awful lot of drug addiction and mental illness and a lot of other problems, from lack of education to lack of employment. These are all outside of the normal traditional world of police officers, but if you can solve that problem, if you can get that person employed, if you can get that person to be stabilized on medication, if you can get that person to get over their drug addiction, that person is not going to be the source of your call for service anymore, and it makes the community safer.
And you've also talked about this desire to look at the root cause, and you now are part of a pilot program, meaning you, the Long Beach City Prosecutor's Office, through Los Angeles County, through Sacramento, which allows certain drug offenders to be diverted even before they're booked.
Right.
That's pretty innovative.
This is really interesting because LA County, including our North Long Beach section, it includes North Long Beach, Compton, and Linwood. That area and another area in San Francisco have been selected by the state to become pilot programs for a pre-booking drug diversion program. So we've been doing court diversion for years. A person goes to court and they're offered a program in lieu of a traditional criminal justice punishment like jail or fines or community service. So the court diversion has been around for a long time. What's new is pre-booking diversion. So the police officers on the streets are going to have resources that they can take someone to, transport them physically, or give them, literally transport them, or drive them, or send them a referral and help that person connect to services without arresting them, booking them, taking them to jail.
Is the clinician helping to decide whether this person would be appropriate for that program?
Yeah, there will be professionals who are drug counselors and experts at identifying types of drug illnesses, and they are going to work directly hand-to-hand with police officers. Whether they're there with the officer every time the officer meets someone on the streets, I doubt, but they're going to be working very, very closely. We're going to have weekly meetings, operational meetings, to go over how it's going, who gets diverted into the program, and who doesn't.
Fascinating. It's a fascinating time. There's no doubt that criminal justice is really going through quite a revolution, I guess you could say, but we'll see how it ends. I want you back?
Yeah, and we're evaluating all of this. So I don't presume that it's all going to work. It's going to be difficult, but I think we're going to work out the kinks.
He is Doug Haubert, City Prosecutor in Long Beach. I'm Brad Pomerance. It's Local Edition.